Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WDW Fan Zone Show. I'm Stuart Sternberg. John Maloney is here with us tonight, and we are joined by our very special guests, Paul and Lisa Houk, who just came back from a whirlwind vacation by taking a Disney cruise through the Panama Canal. Then went to Disneyland and Northern California. Did you go to the Walt Disney Museum?
We did.
Okay, enough about that. I'm kidding. We'll get into that in a moment. But first, I've got to tell you about the greatest travel planner who can do trips for you just like this. And that is Mouse Fan Travel. Mouse Fan Travel is the very best and the greatest at travel planning. So whether it's Walt Disney World, Disneyland, an Adventure by Disney, a Disney cruise. We all love Disney cruises. Even if it's just for the food, nobody beats a Disney cruise for anything when it comes to shows, the food, all sorts of entertainment. And Mouse Fan Travel can do it all for you. They've got great packages no matter what you want to do and great deals going on right now. And all you have to do is go to their website, and that's www.mousefantravel.com. That is www.mousefantravel.com. All right, Paul and Lisa, why don't you take us through your month-long adventure and give us the highlights of...
Stuart, can I ask a question first? Could they share with the audience just a little bit of background on their Disney experience, how long they've been Disney fans, what kind of parks and things they've done and cruises? Just a real quick background on your Disney experience.
Okay. I first went to Walt Disney World in 1972. Let's see, we've been DVC owners since 2004.
I first went to Walt Disney World in 85, 86, somewhere for my grandmother's 80th birthday.
Right after we got married.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, we took our daughter, was like 6 months old.
10 months old.
10 months old, the first time she went to Disney World. So,
Wow.
and then we liked it so much we moved to Central Florida. So we're 30 minutes from 30 to 45 minutes, depending on traffic and where we're going.
By the way, I just want to mention that we could both spit in each other's direction and reach us. That's how close we live to each other here.
Yeah, I live less than half a mile from Stuart and Michelle.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I see Michelle all the time. I never see Stuart.
I don't frequent the clubhouse here that much.
Well, and I'll share one thing that when our daughter was turning 16, we asked her what she wanted for her birthday, and she wanted to see Lanuba. And so Paul and Kathleen came down over Labor Day weekend that year and went and saw Lanuba on West Side, the Cirque du Soleil.
West Side.
And that was the start of a father and daughter trip every year from 16, and she turns 31 this year.
Nice.
Right.
So, and
we have been to Disney World, Disneyland, and Disneyland Paris.
Okay.
In fact, our grandson went to Disney World for his first Christmas. So he was six months old, and he went to Disneyland Paris for his first birthday.
Does he remember those trips?
Not enough.
So actually, he's been to Disney World, I think, every year now. Yeah, he's been to Disney World, 3 times? And he just turned 4.
4 times.
Wow.
So,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we have drank the Kool-Aid.
and cruise-wise, we've been on 5 Disney cruises. The first one we did just as a family, it was a 7-day Western Caribbean. And then we've done 3 Lou cruises. We did the Dream for 5 days in February, March timeframe, right after it had come out, and then a year and a half later in November. And then we did the 7-day Alaska cruise. We actually flew out of Atlanta the day after our grandson was born.
Wow.
He wasn't due until the 6th of July, but he came 3 weeks early. And then we did this last one, the Panama Canal cruise, on our own.
Well, there's a great segue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So So the tie-in with Stuart's intro, we went through MEI Mouse Fan Travel. Michelle Cunningham has been our travel agent since our first Lou cruise, and so when Panama Canal has always been one of my bucket list items, and so when I saw 2 years ago that they were going to do the repositioning cruise, and it was scheduled for shortly after we both retired from the school system, not knowing we were going to be living in Florida. Or did we know by then?
Oh yeah, we knew.
Okay,
about that.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. So
yeah.
we knew we were going to be in Florida.
We were already building the house.
And so we contacted Michelle and was like, "Oh, this is what we're looking for." And so she was actually, the day that the reservations opened for the cruise, she was on the phone with Disney Cruise Line, and these cabins went so fast that we were in a guarantee status actually to start with. So when they started out, it's a very popular cruise because they only do 2 of them. One in going west, then coming east. So.
And they're not actually doing it. It's not coming back east in 2022.
Yeah, we think that they're actually thinking this was going to be maybe the last one. So they think they're going to leave the Wonder on the West Coast. And then the Magic will do the cruises out of Galveston during the wintertime. So
this was on the Wonder then, you're saying?
Yeah,
Yes.
This was on the Wonder.
So we've been on 3 of the 4 cruise ships. We haven't gotten the Fantasy yet. And then, of course, now the Wish came out. So
Yeah.
So that was the hardest. And then, of course, we had this wonderful thing called COVID, which, threw monkey wrenches into everything. And we honestly didn't know if the cruise was going to be going on or not. It was like a couple of months before they really even, we're still like going, no, is the cruise really going to happen?
yeah, when it came eastbound from San Diego to Florida, they didn't know until the week before the cruise was leaving whether or not they knew the ship was going to go. They just didn't know whether passengers were going to go.
Wow.
That's interesting. I didn't know about that. So what were the most notable changes you saw in this cruise from past cruises because of COVID?
Well, we had to wear masks inside. Yeah, that was the big thing.
That was the same with our cruise in February.
A lot less people. There were 1,042 people on our cruise.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
So they upgraded we originally had an ocean view on deck 2, which is at the big porthole.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're using deck 1 and 2 as the quote unquote quarantine deck for anybody if anybody got sick, everybody on decks 1 and 2 were upgraded. And so we went from an ocean view to a balcony on
Deck 7.
Deck 7.
That's nice.
7 cool kids, right again.
And then, of course, the cruise was out of New Orleans. So we had to fly to New Orleans. And then it was going to the port and then you getting the test and sitting there and chewing your nails until you got, the all clear.
The 30 most suspenseful minutes of your life.
Yeah,
that's the one test you want to fail.
Yeah, the one time you want to be negative. I'm usually a positive person, but at that time I wanted to be negative.
Well, and we flew in. So the cruise went out the 4th of March.
Which was the day after Fat Tuesday.
So, we flew in on
Fat Tuesday.
On Fat Tuesday.
So Ash Wednesday, and then it left on
Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, so we flew in, but we didn't fly in until like 9:30 at night, and we stayed out near the airport. It's like we're not even. But there were some people on so there was a Facebook page for the Westbound Panama Canal group. Interestingly enough, 1,042 passengers, 650 of those people were on that Facebook page.
Wow.
That's a lot, man.
So a lot of interaction and stuff. But there were some people that were taking part in Mardi Gras and everything. And I'm like, no, you got to test. I would not know.
Well, did you see people on the Facebook group afterwards saying that they were positive and didn't end up on
it?
Before we ever even got on the cruise, there were a couple of people who dropped because they had gotten COVID or something else had happened. but I don't know if anybody that
I didn't hear of
they didn't-
anybody. I didn't hear of anybody who tested
Tested.
positive before the cruise
Yeah,
at the port.
At the port.
Because normally,
I
I
mean,
think
it may
people-
have happened. It just
Yeah.
we
Right.
didn't know about it.
But,
I didn't hear anybody on ours either.
No,
In
everyone in Lou's group made it onto the ship.
Right.
Not everyone in Lou's group made it home. No, I'm kidding.
Eh,
Well, interestingly
We're talking
enough,
about
and this is kind of
Marcellus.
jumping forward, but we found out later through that Facebook group that after we docked in San Diego, some people saw a couple being escorted off the ship by two people in full hazmat suits. So it's like, okay. And we noticed that the masks on the servers changed from just the regular Disney blue
right.
type mask to an actual N95 or
Yeah.
KN95 mask at the end of the
Okay.
the last day or so.
Yeah. They certainly,
had-
if there was a danger, they certainly didn't want their cast members getting
Right.
sick and being short
Right.
cast.
John,
I was in a food coma by the end of the cruise, and so I honestly don't remember anything.
I remember on our cruise, John, that was the one in February, Lou Mangello's WDW Radio Marvel Day at Sea cruise. They were all wearing the N95 masks then because we were in the midst of a outbreak.
So yeah,
Mhm.
that
Yep.
that last surge and stuff.
Yeah, I remember you and Michelle were like hibernating. Well, we hibernated really
For me,
for
it's nothing
2
new.
weeks prior to
Prior
the
to,
cruise.
yeah.
We really
Yeah.
cut back on all of our
Activities and stuff like that.
any exposure to people.
You
So the cruise. So actually, and before we went on the cruise, we did go to the World War II Museum in New Orleans. We spent
Oh,
a day
nice.
there.
A full day, 9 hours.
Yes.
Wow.
So I mean, New Orleans, as far as the port went, it was very good.
Yeah.
I mean, we had no issues getting on the port. It was convenient, easy to get to. Unlike, I guess, Miami. It sounds like Miami is a goat rope. But let's see. So the cruise was 14 days. We ended up having 8 sea days.
Yes,
Wow.
because we were supposed to go to Grand Cayman, but Grand Cayman hadn't reopened. So we had to skip that port.
So we
we went
did.
to Cozumel first, then we went to Cartagena, Colombia, then we went through the canal, and then Puerto Vallarta, Cabo San Lucas, and then into San Diego.
So really, we had 1, 2, 3. We only had four ports.
Yeah.
So, and I will say that 14 days got to be very long.
Did it?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to do another 14-day cruise.
Wow.
And especially because, I mean, I think the biggest thing was just, you feel like you have to eat. And after 14 days of eating, it's like, oh my gosh, do I have, and of course they threw in like around day 10 or 11 or somewhere like that. We had prime rib and, lobster tails again, of course, and you have to do both.
Sports in heaven when you said that.
So,
For anyone who's listening to the show or watching the show, if you've never been on a Disney cruise, you walk in thin, but you will not walk out thin.
yeah,
You go on as passenger and you come off as cargo.
Yep. Yep. Good way to put it.
Yeah.
And we had some very, Cozumel, we did a chocolate making
And pinata.
excursion. So we got to make, the history of chocolate, and we got to make chocolate.
Nice.
Cartagena, we did the best of Cartagena, which was a bus tour.
Cultural, yeah.
Took us to a whole bunch of different areas, which was very interesting because I'd never been to South America. And then Puerto Vallarta, we did a Mexican cooking experience back in the foothills. So it actually got away from the beach, which was a lot of fun. And then Cabo San Lucas, because you have to tender in. Lisa didn't want to do it because she
I
has
have mobility issues
and
stepping into a boat from
yeah.
a boat.
And I walked off, and it was like, okay, bar, gift shop, gift shop. Okay, get back on the boat, go back.
It was also
Trying to get you drunk so you buy everything.
Yeah, it was also spring break time
Oh,
down
yeah.
there, college spring break. So,
lot of
Lots of
half naked college students, or actually a lot more than half naked. They were, yeah. And then San Diego. Then from San Diego, we took the train to Los Angeles. Spent 5 days at Disneyland, so we did 4 days in the parks. Did 2 in Disneyland, 2 in DCA, and then we drove to. Originally, we were supposed to take the train to San Francisco, but the train got canceled. A month ahead of time, it got canceled. So we ended up just driving and stayed in Emeryville. Okay, so what's in Emeryville?
Pixar.
Right. And I kept going, Emeryville sounds really familiar. And then I think I listened to a podcast on the way or something. I said, Pixar's here. And our hotel was like 2 miles away from Pixar. So of course we had to drive by, and they don't do tours, but we went by, and at least you could take a picture of the front and look in and see all the different stuff on the lawns and say, I was here.
Yeah, we did the Disney Family Museum when we were in San Francisco. And one of the advantages of being retired military was our tickets were free. So that was a nice little perk for that. But we were there 5 or 6 hours. It was timed entry when you first got in, but once you were in, then they didn't push you through. But we spent the better part of the day there, and then went to a restaurant that's up near the Presidio Golf Club and had dinner before we headed back. But we were visiting Paul's 2 brothers. One lives in Reno and one lives outside of Sacramento. So we were visiting them.
So that was in a whirlwind. That's 14, 28 days or however long. I was glad to get home. I will admit that.
I can
31
imagine.
days. We left the 1st, we flew back the 31st.
Now, how would you compare your experience to Disneyland, your current Disneyland experience, to what's currently going on at the Disney World parks?
Okay, so how would we compare Disneyland to Disney World?
Yeah, your experience there. Now, not necessarily the attractions, but just the overall guest experience.
Well, we went and we made plans. We were there, did Saturday, Sunday, took Monday off, and then did Tuesday, Wednesday. And I'm thinking, okay, Saturday, Sunday are going to be busier than Tuesday, Wednesday. Well, Saturday and Sunday were not bad at all. We got tons done. And then on Tuesday, as we're going in, we find out that it's Southern California spring break.
Oh,
high school.
Yeah.
So
it was very crowded.
Everybody was there on Tuesday and Wednesday. So luckily we got most of our stuff done on Saturday and Sunday.
You do have to do reservations just like you do for Disney World. So that, was an issue. Now, where we stayed, we came out of our hotel. We stayed in the Tropicana Inn and Suites. So you came out of our hotel, you turned left, you went down to the corner.
1 block.
Yeah, it was less than a block. I mean, we were 0.2 of a mile from the entrance.
And then you cross Hubbard Boulevard, and then you're there. So, I mean, it
was real convenient for that.
And same thing, you do security. Now, the difference with Disney World is that, you have the security things where you walk through, they don't have to go through your book bag, your backpacks, unless it triggers. At Disneyland, they still go through every backpack. It's so they have regular metal detectors, but if you have a backpack, they're going through it.
And it was interesting. We made friends with a couple that live up here in Claremont and development up here before we went on the cruise. And then we linked our reservations and ate with them for dinners and stuff. And they were going to Disneyland afterwards also. And she had a selfie stick, and they took the selfie stick from her. But I've noticed at Disney World, because I thought that you couldn't have selfie sticks. There's selfie sticks all over the place at Disney World, but at Disneyland,
you're not supposed to.
Right, you're not supposed to at Disney World.
But I've seen people walk through security with them in their hand. And
wow.
Kurt, who's not with us here tonight, he was kicked out of Disney World once.
That was a tripod.
It was a tripod, right? It was a tripod, but yeah.
The other thing is, like, our friends, the Fran and Rob, she got a disability access
She could get the
Pass.
DAS at
for
Disneyland.
Disneyland.
She can't get it at Disney World.
Oh,
It won't.
That's interesting.
And so she was actually able to put us onto her DAS. And so we were actually able to get into a couple of rides with them. So we went over one night and just went with them. We actually went with our neighbors, Stuart, Dave and Faye Leffler.
Yep.
When we were talking about this, that we were going to Disneyland, they were like, would you mind if we came out and went to Disneyland with you while you're there? I was like, no. So they actually,
That's nice.
they flew out to California to go
From
to
Michigan.
from Michigan to go to Disneyland with us,
That's awesome.
which was really cool. And I don't know where
We
was
had-
it. So anyway, so we had one night that they went back to the hotel, and so we ended up going to DCA
Yeah.
with Fran and
They got
Rob
us into web slingers
and Radiator
lightning
Racers.
and radiator racers. Radiator racers is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it is.
oh, yeah.
A lot of fun.
I
That's
think that's
good.
about my favorite. I did all. Let me see, and then of course, you everything you hear. Disneyland is so small, so compact, so easy to get around. So many rides they don't have at Disney World and Fantasyland. Of course, while we're there, Pirates of the Caribbean was closed.
Oh,
What
Same
else?
when we were at Disneyland Paris, Pirates of the Caribbean was closed.
oh, you didn't see?
Wow.
Oh no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's a great Pirates there.
and Disneyland Paris also, Space Mountain was closed while we were there.
Ah,
So it's like, okay.
Paul did do the
I did Matterhorn.
Matterhorn. He
Man, I
regretted it after he got
Yeah,
off.
No, it
No.
just it beats the heck out of you. It's
Pirates
very-
closed the
It's
entire
bouncy.
time you were there?
Huh?
Was Pirates closed the entire time you were there?
Yes. Yep.
oh,
Oh, ooh, that hurts.
Yeah, it was closed for like 2 months. They were doing a big refurb.
Oh, okay.
okay.
So I didn't feel bad. It wasn't like it didn't open the day after we left. That
Yeah.
would have really ticked me off. But let's see what else. So we did, Alice in Wonderland. We did Snow White. We did, of course, Mr. Toad.
Storybook Canal.
Storybook Canal Boat.
Storybook Canal boat. Yeah.
Did we do Peter Pan?
Yeah.
We did.
Mhm.
I can't remember.
It was
we did
nice
Small
because
World.
they were all right
Yeah,
there.
I mean,
So
yeah.
it's literally because Faye and I both use mobility scooters when we're in the parks, and we had rented ones
Mhm.
From a third party, not from Disney. But we went in, and for Mr. Toad's, I think was the first one we rode. We parked at the one place.
No,
when it,
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland. Okay, we parked the scooters, and then they tell you to go in the exit. So you go in the back way for the handicapped
Yeah.
access
Yeah.
type of thing. So we did that, and then we took the scooters over to Storybook Canal boats. But then for Peter Pan and
Mr. Toad,
Mr.
and
Toad
Snow White, they're all
and
right
Snow
there.
White and
There's one more.
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio. That was
Yeah,
it.
for those we just parked the scooters in one place, and since they're
right
all
because
right
they're
next
like
to each
they're
other,
like right in a circle.
it's
They're
like you walk
adjacent,
one to
yeah.
the next to the next to the
Yeah,
next.
unlike
to the next.
Fantasyland
Yeah.
at Disney World, where you've got to walk 14 miles just to get from attraction to attraction in Fantasyland.
So, yeah.
Interesting. I did not go to Galaxy's Edge. There, it's the same as ours.
It's pretty much the same layout, isn't it? They have
Yeah,
one
there's
extra entrance and exit.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Also, let's see. They had Toontown was closed,
Oh,
Right.
so didn't
another
get to
good-
do Roger Rabbit.
They're doing a major refurbishment there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
He did Galaxy.
We did Carousel of Progress. Oh no, we didn't. No, that's
No, you did.
We
Yeah,
Oh,
rode the train.
We did. We rode the train.
twice.
Yeah.
we did.
were so
rode the
excited.
We
train.
got to see the medieval world. Yeah.
Yep. You
Or
were at the
primeval, sorry.
Primeval.
Primeval
Medieval
world.
world. Yeah, we saw those guys jousting.
Yeah.
We saw
The
great,
dinosaurs
we
jousting.
saw great moments with Mr. Lincoln. That was actually really cool.
We did. We did that at night.
Yeah.
We went and saw great moments, Mr. Lincoln. Then of course,
Rode
we
the
saw
train at night.
we saw the Waltz light at nighttime, which is the best time to see it. Because
Yeah.
you can't see it during the day.
Mhm.
You have to see it at night. We went through their magnificent castle. It's very
So have
awe-inspiring.
you had you been to Disneyland before?
We went in 1999.
On our way to Korea.
We had
Quite a
one day in the park.
Yeah.
And then I had gone when I was in the Air Force, so it would have been like back in the 80s. I went one time when we had a trip to California, and so the guy I was traveling with, we said, we had like an afternoon that we got in early, and I said, let's go to Disneyland, back when you could afford to do that.
So one of the interesting things on our cruise is they had different talks. They had a guy that talked about the Panama Canal. He put me to sleep every time.
Oh,
He was a professor. He was very dry. We wish they used to have a guy named Captain Puckett who had been a captain on the Panama Canal, one of the pilot guys. But we had a guy named Bruce Kimbrell who had worked for Disney
37 years, something like that.
And so he was on there and he did multiple talks over the 14 days and just all about Disneyland and a lot of the history and sharing different things about how often they change out the flowers. They not only change out the flowers, they change out the grass after, so many days. And just they change all of the light bulbs at one time. And when they change them, they reset the clock. They have a date that
right. They
know
they know track of them all.
Yep, they keep track of them all. 85%, I think, is where it's 85, 87% is where they hit. Okay, they go in and they change them all. And so he shared little tidbits about the windows on Main Street, the different windows and who they referred to, and just incredible information. He was a great guy to listen to. He did also kind of put me to sleep sometimes. He had a very calm.
He had worked for Disney University for like the last 15 years. But he started out in Adventureland. He worked first as attractions, then he went into like attraction lead, and then he became like manager for all the attractions in Adventureland.
And he is the reason why Jungle Cruise has female skippers. They did not have female skippers, and he tried to get them. He said, I think we need to do this. And they were like, no, we tried that back in the 60s or whatever, and it didn't work. And he waited 3 months and went back, and he said, remember, no, we tried that. It didn't work. And then he waited another couple of months, and he went back again, and they finally said, okay, we will give you 2 weeks. You pick who you think, would be. And so at night after the park closed, he had picked 6 or 8 females that he thought would be good skippers. And he would take them through the Jungle Cruise, and they would do the spiel, and he got, everything done. And then when it was time, they did it. And within the first day, they had huge positive feedback. And that's why there are women, at least at that time, women skippers.
Yeah.
It probably would have eventually have gotten there,
but that was like during the 80s.
Yeah.
So
how long did it take you to pass through the Panama Canal?
One day.
We went in at 6 a.m. We started in.
We went out about 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah, we went through the final locks. So we go through the new locks, not the old locks. They built the new locks in 2016, I think is when they were built, to handle the larger cruise ships and stuff like that.
And larger container ships.
Disney pays a premium to be front of the line access so that they don't have to wait, like a 10 to 15% premium to do it. So the estimate that somebody shared that Captain Puckett had calculated from, I think, the 2019 transit was it cost Disney, it was close to $500,000, I think, or something. It was some huge, because it's based on the length of the ship, the tonnage of the ship, the number of passengers, all of that type of stuff. So we started at 6 a.m. You go into the first set of locks, and it's 3 tiers that raise you up. You basically go up to the level of Lake Gatun, and then you transit through the lake, through the Calabria, cut, and then step down on the other side. It was so smooth. I did video on my phone. So Paul went up to the front. We couldn't be on deck 4 because that's where the pilot crew was going to be. And they would have people moving in and out. And so they wanted to keep that isolated. Paul went up to the front of the ship. I stayed on our balcony and watched. And I took video shooting straight down as the water filled the lock. Because if you weren't looking and watching as you rose up, you would not even know. It was that smooth of a transition. And it took about 7 or 8 minutes to fill the lock completely, and then they would open the doors. It was interesting as I'm kind of looking around, all of a sudden I looked, they had closed the locks behind us after we had gone in, and there's a tugboat in the front and a tugboat in the back. And then the ship uses its thrusters to keep itself pretty much centered.
Positioned, right.
Yeah. As they closed the lock behind us, all of a sudden I saw movement and I looked back and cars were going across. So that back lock gate is an actual road.
Right.
And so it's like, you got to time yourself well. Because if you miss it, you're there for at least probably 10, 15 minutes before they allow you to go back.
They just do one ship at a time in the lock.
One ship at a time. Yeah, because
they're all staggered out behind you then.
Yep. And then you can see the line of ships. And actually, as you're going through the lake, there were a lot of ships that were anchored in the lake, probably waiting for their time to get through because they're waiting for their fast pass.
Yeah. And then when we came out on the Pacific Ocean side, there were a ton of ships that were just sitting there at anchor,
waiting to go the other direction.
Yep. To go in.
Wow.
That's interesting.
We had good weather. It was very hot and very humid in Cartagena.
So like here.
Actually, the past couple of days was probably what it was like in Cartagena when we were there. Very hot, very humid.
Nice.
It's just north of the equator.
Yeah, we had a little bit of rock on the Caribbean side before we went through the canal. We got on the other side, the Pacific Coast side, and the temperature dropped. It got a lot cooler, but smooth as glass for the first 2 days after we went through the canal. Just smooth as glass.
I mean, absolutely. It was,
And then there was a storm that came from the Bay of Campeche and went across the Mexican peninsula. And the ship, actually, we went to a talk there was a first mate, a third mate, and a cadet that did from the bridge that did a talk about the bridge and the steering and all the different things that they do. And they talked about the storm. And what they did is they slowed the ship down to allow the storm to pass in front of us. And then they actually adjusted the course slightly to try and take out some of the rocking side to side. But the activities director called it the Disney cha-cha, 2 steps left, 3 steps right, forward, back, cha-cha-cha. We were rolling pretty good. I always had a hand on the wall or a railing or something. It was, we had quite the motion going.
So you guys were on Lou Mangello's first cruise, Deck 7 group.
Yes.
We were part of
Do you remember the rocking on that cruise? Was it similar to that?
I mean, like that. Remember that first night, and you're going and you're watching the curtains go back and forth, back and forth.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. They actually had to change some of the entertainment because they were supposed to have an acrobatic group one night, and they actually had to change. They had to switch them around.
They brought the magician.
They brought the magician out
early. That was his second show, wasn't it?
Could be.
So the magician made the acrobats disappear.
Yes.
Yeah, because it was would have been difficult.
Even the night that they did, you kind of watched them. Well, actually, there were 2 different acrobatic acts. We had one that was, or maybe it was the same. You could see they changed some of the stuff that they did. Yeah. You could tell that it's like, okay, the way that she's supposed to let go with her hands, and no, she held on with one hand or something. So they adapted a little bit because there still was a little bit of motion.
Not their first rodeo.
No.
But we did have the eastbound Panama Canal, the one that came back in November. There had been a lot of complaints about the entertainment that was on the ship because they were requiring, apparently, the entertainment that they had to commit to staying on the ship for 2 weeks. Normally, normally the group would come on at one port and then get off at the next port, and they bring on another group. But because of COVID, they were more or less saying, no, you come on at the beginning and we let you off at the end. And so they had very little entertainment. So that people were, having to do a lot of stuff, a lot of games, a lot of Disney trivia. And so in ours, we had 4, 5, 6 different
Acts and stuff.
Acts that came on, and so everybody was really happy. So things were slowly getting back to normal.
Yeah, they are.
Food was wonderful. Though I don't know what it is about Disney that they just can't. Desserts always looked wonderful, but just it was like, this is not the best. Did you notice that on your cruise that really the desserts? No, you just.
Oh, I love dessert. Is like
they had the worst cheesecake. Oh, it was the cheesecake was awful. Ice cream was always good.
Got a really good chilled mango soup, though.
Oh, yes, I know you love that, dear.
Well, that's one of Becky's favorite, isn't it? Or strawberry?
Yeah, I think
Here's
so.
a strawberry, yeah.
They also did terrible with what was the soups.
Some
Their
of the
clam
soup.
chowder and their mushroom soup was just pitiful. It was just
Really
good, not good.
Wow.
By the way, for anybody listening and watching, these are the opinions, the express opinions of our guests, not necessarily those of us who do the podcast.
But the seafood was awesome.
Yeah.
The steak, I tell you, the steak was amazing. They had tenderloin, I don't know how many times, and it was melt in your mouth tender. It was wonderful.
Well, and they had a very wide selection of things with, because they had vegetarian options, and there were nights that it's like I had a tough time trying to decide between a regular thing and a vegetarian, because I like tofu and I like some of the other stuff that they were having with the vegetarian options. But one of the things we always talk about with Disney cruises is that they'll meet your needs however you want it.
Yeah.
Fran and Rob.
You want 3 appetizers?
You can have it.
Yeah.
Well, Rob is a very picky eater. And so for him, the first night he said, for my appetizer, I want chicken broth with noodles. No chicken, no vegetables or anything, just chicken broth with noodles. So they bring him like 2 little, cups of that. And then he pretty much was, if they had steak, he was having the steak
With no sauce.
with no sauce, nothing. And then they'd always bring him French fries until his wife was like looking, and she's going, what's one of the things that we had gotten? She's like, what's that? And it is, well, it was the side with our thing. Well, he didn't want the sides. He wanted French fries. So they weren't bringing them. And she's like, but I would have liked that. But she was finally like, look at the sides. You're getting that side. But they were very accommodating towards all of that for his. But yeah, he was steak, hamburger, pot roast.
Did you talk to the servers at all about the food that you thought was subpar?
No.
Okay.
I think the only thing we mentioned was there was one night the rolls were really hard.
Yeah, and that was the other problem is the bread.
The
bread was not great either. Like
One
it was
night-
almost like it was stale.
One night they
I don't
had
know what was up.
one night they had pretzel rolls. Yeah.
And that was the really depressing part, because I love bread.
Yeah.
I mean, we came out and we were like going, these things are like tink, tink, tink. These are not.
A little hard.
And it wasn't just me; it was the other people too.
I forgot to tell you, it was part of the Acrobats Act.
Yeah.
That could be.
Well,
Actually,
I wonder if they picked them up from a different place because of your
That's
That
what
could
I'm
be.
itinerary.
wondering.
Yeah. one of the things too that I really enjoyed was at Daisy's Delights, which was on deck 9, which is outside of Cabanas, and then in Cabanas, fresh fruit. So you could they had strawberries, watermelon, cantaloupe, honeydew, grapes. And so a lot of times I would go and I'd say, I want a plate full of all of them,
And then you get a couple of chocolate chip cookies and you go get ice cream to go with the chocolate chip cookies.
That sounds like an afternoon to me.
No, yeah.
And then you get an order of French fries to dip in the chocolate in your ice cream too. So, and you always go and you'd get a cup from the soda fountain
to get the ice cream.
And then put the ice cream in the cup.
That's a great tip. That's one of our tips. Yep. So I can see why you were a little full after you were doing that for 14 days.
And we had late seating. I don't know what did you guys have? Did you have early or late?
Early.
Maine.
It was late.
Maine,
yeah, right.
Okay.
So that's the early city, the 5:30.
Yeah.
See, we had the 8 o'clock, and so we weren't finishing supper until almost 10 every night.
Ooh.
And you never really think about it until all of a sudden you're like going, like the 10 o'clock adult shows would start at 10 o'clock, or trivia would be at 10 o'clock, and we'd be like
9:45.
Oh, I guess we need to finish because we need to go to eat.
I went to bed. I'm like, I'm done.
Did they have more than just the 3 major stage shows for 14 days?
Yeah. So we had, so they had Meredith. I don't remember her last name. She played Mother Gothel on Broadway.
But stage shows. Did we have Frozen?
We had the Frozen Spectacular.
We had Frozen. We had
Dreams.
Disney Dreams, and then was it not Wishes?
Old Mickey's.
Golden Mickey's. And that, I hate to say it, Golden Mickey's is old and tired because did you have Golden Mickey's on yours? Where they had Bob Iger still doing, he still had the part in it when he's talking to Ensign, what's her name?
No, not on the last cruise.
Okay, so Golden Mickey's, they have this whole thing that, she comes out and the MC's gotten sick and she's actually the stage manager and she has to become the MC.
Right.
And Bob Iger is.
Because we saw Golden Mickey's the first time on our 2005.
Yeah.
2004,
and so you have Bob Iger is like telling her that she needs to do this. And it's like, well, Bob, I'm glad to see that you still have a job with Disney.
The premise of it is good. But,
and you look good, too. You look young.
So those were the 3 main stage thingies. Then we had the lady that she played Mother Gothel on Broadway. And so she talked about and sang some of her favorite songs.
Yeah,
and she had an incredible voice. We had the magician. We had the lady that was the ventriloquist comedian. We had the circus act. They had a cast
talent show,
which was actually incredibly good.
And they only do that on the 14-day cruise.
They have some really talented folks in that group. They had a group that came and sang, an a cappella group. Yeah, they were okay. They were a little off.
Yeah.
Mm.
And a lot of people commented afterwards in our Facebook group about how they were a little off.
And they did a awesome Disney medley. And then they did a what do they call it when you come back out?
Encore.
And then they did an encore of other stuff. And we're like going, why didn't you do Disney medley and just stop?
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Then they came out. Then they had actually a family night talent show type thing too.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't go to that one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so they had something different every night for us.
So in our Facebook group, they organized an unofficial 5K on one of the sea days, and lady made medals and everything. You could buy it was like $5. You could get a medal. It was called the Goofy Gallop or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
So that was A lot of things. I mean, you just were they seating? I know they weren't. You just for seating at dinner. If you wanted to sit with people, you actually had to request that, right?
Yes.
Right, we did.
They did limit most tables. I don't want to say they limited all because there were a couple of pretty large tables.
But probably because they were like families or something like that.
No, they were more friends than
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like because that was one thing.
the
If you didn't
reservations.
if you weren't linked with someone, you sat by yourself. They didn't.
Right.
They were not
Right.
combining families like they used to do. Like you'd get a couple that you didn't know, which was a wonderful way of meeting new people.
So
Right.
one of the interesting things, the last 2 or 3 days that we were on the cruise, our friends had noticed they were on the same deck we were, but they were 5 or 6 cabins or so down from us. And they had walked by the cabin right next to us, and the guy had a magnet on that said he was from Claremont, Florida. And they said, your cabin neighbor is from Claremont. You need to knock on the door and find out where he's from. So Paul he left a note on his door
On the fish extender.
extender saying that, who we are, we're in the cabin next to you. We live in Claremont in the Palms at Serenoa, blah, 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 all this stuff. We come back to the cabin and he heard us come in. He comes over and knocks on the door and he said, "Hi, yeah, I live in the Palms at Serenoa too."
Oh
He lives on Wingdown Court.
He lives behind Jim Odell.
He's like a 1/10 of a mile from.
That is so funny. What a small world.
And he was traveling by himself.
So
But he was in the same time frame as us, and he was sitting the next table over from us at a lot of the restaurants. And so towards the end, we were like, join us. We had enough space at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Just come on and join us. He and Victor would be best buds because he made you knew Greg because he made his shirts and his masks, shirts and vests, and he had a mask to match it.
Nice.
And he made them all himself.
And he made them all himself.
That's nice.
So
yeah. So it was like small world.
Yeah. Yeah, those are always like the best stories where you least expect it.
Yeah.
There's somebody right next door.
okay, so let's talk about food at Disneyland because you haven't asked yet. See, corn dog.
Let's talk about food in Disneyland.
Corn dog at the Little Red Cart was amazing.
Pancake corn dog.
But I tell you what, the corn dog that they have at Sleepy Hollow at Disney World is just as good.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to have a hand-dipped corn dog, go to Sleepy Hollow at Liberty Square or go to Disneyland. And
I'm not a person who really likes corn dogs a whole lot, but yeah, they were amazing.
Did you try the cozy cones?
okay,
That's kind of a sore subject because
I want to go to Cozy Cone and
he got outvoted on that. We ate at Flo's V8.
Flo's V8 had amazing fried chicken. I will admit.
Love Flo's V8.
Yeah.
And their mashed
really
potatoes were real mashed potatoes.
So I have to admit the mashed potatoes and fried chicken almost made up for not getting a Cozy Cone. We didn't actually eat at Pim's Test Kitchen, but we got the
Choco Smash
candy bar. Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
The size of Paul's head.
That was quite that big.
It was that big. I took a picture of it, him holding it up next to his head. It was, we bought 2. Faye and Dave split one, we split one, and we were like, thank God, because you couldn't eat that by yourself. You could, you'd be sick. But yeah, it was really good.
We saw the Bengal barbecue, but I didn't actually get any. I should have. The problem was I wasn't real hungry because I just.
Yeah, this is after 14 days on the ship.
It's after 14 days of all you can eat, and then
Then in Disneyland we ate at a restaurant in New Orleans Square-ish type.
Yeah,
area.
it wasn't Blue Bite.
It was like the Belle Rose or Belle Terrace or something like that. That it was good.
Blue Bayou was closed.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, another thing that was closed while you were there.
Yeah. Tarzan's Treehouse was closed also.
The Houk are coming. Let's close it all down.
Yep, that was it.
But he rode Guardians of the Galaxy, the Mission Breakout
Mission Breakout.
at Tower. I did not, because I'm not a Tower fan. So
Web Slingers was interesting. It was okay. I like, honestly, I like Toy Story Midway Mania better. Oh,
Wow.
and in Pixar Pier, first off, the Incredicoaster was incredible. I love the Incredicoaster. That was awesome. The Ferris wheel, the Pixar Pal Around. Okay. They have two different ways that the cars go on.
The way they
One of
move.
them is that they're set. They just go around.
Yeah.
And then the other ones which swing.
slide back and
If
forth
you
on a rail.
if you enjoy nausea, motion sickness, any of those wonderful feelings, do the swinging ones on the Pal Around. It was awful.
When we went to ride it, they were like, "Well, which one are we going to do?" I said, "I am doing the one that's stationary.
Stationary.
I've just gotten off the cruise ship and I still was rocking and rolling. The first night when I got into the shower and I closed my eyes to wet my hair, thank God they had a grab bar in the shower because I felt like I was rocking and I had to grab a hold of it. And so I'm like, I'm trying to get away from that motion. I don't want that motion. He then rode it later on with Rob and they went on that one. And he said, the whole time I'm just like, how soon is this going to end? Please God, let this end.
It was the most, it was horrible. The older I get, the worse it gets.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah, I can't do Mission Break. Oh, I'm sorry. I did Mission Breakout one time and I was ruined for 3 hours.
So you don't like Tower of Terror?
No.
No.
I do like Tower of Terror, and I did like Mission Breakout, but it's when it gets to drop 5, drop 6. Okay, enough.
I did Tower of Terror once, and I tell people I don't like any ride where my butt leaves the seat 3 times. And I did it once to say I did it, and I was done.
We did do Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah.
And the Temple of Doom. And I seem to remember it better the other time we rode it back in '99, maybe because I was younger.
I remember it.
And I was like, not big on this. I mean, I don't like Dinosaur. So,
but I thought it was even rougher than Dinosaur. I mean, it seemed really. But yeah, I was bracing the entire time. It was pretty wild.
I'm trying to think what else interesting things. But no, I mean, Disneyland is you got to love Disneyland, and I was really happy with DCA. I thought DCA was really good too. I enjoyed it.
We got to see Spider-Man fly
and not crash into a wall.
And not crash.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool. And then seeing the
Doctor Strange show.
Yeah, I couldn't think of.
They have a Doctor Strange show. It's like 15 minutes long. And the first time we saw it, we actually saw it twice. It was that good. The first time we saw it, it was at nighttime, which is actually better because the lighting effects are a lot more visible. Then we saw it again the next day. Well, not the next day, whatever. The next day we went. We took the Lefflers, and it was they're really good.
Okay. Sounds like you had an amazing trip.
It was okay.
It was fun.
This coming from somebody who likes to wear a goofy hat to the parks.
I do.
His okay means it was outstanding.
One of the things that really amazed me was people that were on the cruise with us in the group, and they were talking about countdown calendars and stuff like that for cruises. And there were some people that already had 3 and 4 cruises lined up. That they were doing countdowns on. It's just kind of like, and we couldn't get into Palo for brunch at the point because we were silver still when we were booking. We're now gold. whoop-de-doo. But we were we were silver when we were still.
We only get credit for a 14-day cruise. You get credit for one cruise. 14 days.
For 2.
It should count for 4.
But we weren't able to get into Palo brunch. We did make a reservation for supper, but we canceled that one. But the guy who headed our Facebook group actually worked with DCL, and he knew that they had a separate room that they could seat up to 14 people in around this big table. And so he arranged with them. He had 10 brunches set up. And so people signed up. We signed up through him. So we were able to go, and we had 14, and there was a couple on there that they were traveling with 3 kids on the Panama Canal cruise. He was a physical therapist. And she had done the eastbound with, I think, her kids or something. He couldn't go.
No, that was the other family. That was the other family we met in the hotel.
But they had like 2 or 3 other cruises lined up, and we're just like, got a lot more money than I do. But yeah, we met a couple. We met a couple in the hotel we stayed at in New Orleans. They had been on the eastbound. She had been on with her kids. He couldn't go because he couldn't take the time off. But literally every day that we were on the ship, we saw them. As we're walking around, we would run into them on the ship.
Various places. It's like, hey, how you doing?
The day wasn't complete if we didn't see Shannon and her family.
Well, let's see what. Any other questions?
Well, how did you, when you're on that 14-day cruise, did you stay connected at all? I mean, were you, able to use your phones?
We got into port. When we got into port, we could. We would check stuff. Because you could usually.
So we have Verizon Wireless, which allows us. Our Verizon plan covers Mexico. So
okay.
So I guess
in Cozumel, in Puerto Vallarta, and Cabo San Lucas, we were covered by that.
Mm-hmm.
For Cartagena and Panama, you can do a day pass. It's $10 for 24 hours.
Right.
And so in Cartagena, I activated my phone and did the day pass for the 24 hours. And I was able to actually post some stuff right as we were going into the canal, because I was at the back end. I had like half an hour or so left on my 24 hours. And then I shut down my data, and then he activated going through the canal. So we're able to do that. Mm-hmm. Good thing, because we do change time zones. So we were Central Time Zone when we left New Orleans. We had to set our clocks back forward an hour, because we went into Eastern Time Zone then when we went to Cozumel and Cartagena. Well, one of the challenges that happened is we weren't changing our phones again, our time, until we went through the canal and got to the Pacific side, but it was daylight savings time. And everybody's phone, a lot of people were calling and going, did the ship change its time or something? Because everybody's phones automatically changed. And we have Fitbits, which were our watches. You have to have internet connection to be able to sync your Fitbit.
You have to be connected to the network. Right?
So I just had to keep looking at my thing and going, okay, it says 9:58, but it's really 8:58 or 10:58. Paul just took his off.
Well, that was the one thing, because I guess, the phones had all updated. So my watch had updated, and I'm checking, but on the TV, how it shows the time, and it's different time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so my watch says it's 8 o'clock, and the ship clock says it's 9
or 7 or so. I can't remember
9
which
or
direction
7, which way it went. And so I called up, I called up, guest services and said, did the ship clock change or something? And then the cruise director that night said, yeah, we had a little fun with the time today.
Because nobody thought about it was daylight savings.
Well, it's a very unique cruise. I mean, and that's just, another thing you don't think about, in typically when you're on a cruise. I mean, they'll tell you when you're changing time zones, but how many time zones did you change over the course
really
of that
not that
cruise?
many.
Okay.
we went from Central
To
to Eastern, and then you
to
go,
Pacific.
and
They
then you go
skipped
to
over
Pacific.
Mountain because we were going through the canal. They just
Yeah.
didn't change. For
Okay.
that.
No, and so this is something I've heard from people. If anybody who does the eastbound or the westbound Atlantic crossing, is that you do, if you're doing the eastbound Atlantic crossing, you actually lose an hour each night.
That's interesting.
So because you're having to make up like 8 hours getting to Europe, and so it's like every night you go to bed at midnight, it's really 1 o'clock. You have to set your clocks ahead every night. Versus if you're going westbound, you lose an hour you gain an hour every night. You're going to bed at 11. It's actually 10.
Yeah.
And so
the moral of the story
you lose half a day going.
Well, and the moral of the story of that one is if you're doing that cruise, don't have a Fitbit, have a real watch that you can manually reset, or just take it off and use your phone.
Or just go by. Yeah, that's true.
Because we were able to manually set our phones to different time zones, but
the thing is you're losing an hour of sleep every night.
yeah.
So, not that I intend to have that problem. Though, I don't know, Stuart, you know John and Pam Rump on your street.
Yes.
So I was talking with them not Tuesday.
Yeah, they're the king and queen of cruising.
And yeah, he said that they're going on a cruise every month.
Yep. Yeah, they pretty much do. It's incredible.
Well, he had said that he had a friend who lived up, I guess, in Heritage Hills area that had just recently died very unexpectedly, had a stroke in his sleep and stuff. And he said, I've learned that, don't put off.
Well, yeah, they're also, Florida discount rates. I mean, I think they go in Royal Caribbean, and he said that, you can get, really cheap fares, last minute ones too.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a dog, so we're a little prohibited from doing weekend cruise.
But the dog's owner is back with you.
Yes, that's true. That is true.
But do you trust the dog's owner to keep the dog alive while you're gone?
Yes, yeah, I do.
So I guess the question is, would I do it again? I mean, it was definitely everything I wanted out of the cruise. It was, bucket list, fantastic. And if I had a choice to do another Panama Canal cruise versus a different cruise, I'd probably do a different cruise. I mean, there were people who had done, I don't know, multiple Panama Canal cruises.
Both directions.
Would you do the Adventures by Disney around the world trip, which is over
$110,000? Yeah.
What I heard, it's actually, what's it, 21 days, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's a private jet.
Yeah, because it's not just going to the parks. You go to the Taj. It sounds like you go to every location that Soaring Around the World does.
Yep, pretty much.
They said because you go to the pyramid, you go to the Taj Mahal.
I don't think you visit the Great Wall of China, though.
Well, you'd be in China, but you might if you're in China. You're going to be in Shanghai.
I forgot that I did. We actually mentioned this on one of our shows, the stops, but I can't remember. I know there was one. It was the Taj Mahal. It was in Paris.
Yeah, Paris.
The Eiffel Tower, and there was another place.
I know they were doing the pyramids.
Oh, maybe it was the. I can't remember offhand where the other one was, but if you said,
does it go to Fiji?
Yeah, they land on that island.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Hey, they could do an episode of Lost.
Yeah.
We would be excited.
Yeah, Icelander Airlines is providing the jet for the.
Who is?
Icelander Airlines is providing the jet for the trip. So I'm sure it'll be
and every seat will be first class.
Yep.
Well,
the only way Disney does
certainly everybody going on the trip can afford first class.
Yeah, I wonder. I bet it sells out. It will.
Well, they said there was waiting lists.
Oh, we just lost Stuart.
Oh no, we've lost our host.
Okay, John, that was your chance.
What can I ask about
It's
Stuart
still
that I don't know? So you said that once was enough for you. You'd rather do other cruises.
I disconnected myself.
Too late, Stuart. John's already
John's
done
taking
the
over.
coup.
That's okay. That's
He
okay.
already renamed
I'll
the-
listen
he
back.
already
Can I hang
renamed
him
the
up now?
podcast.
So the next one we probably need to look at. We started looking at some, and then he started looking at Royal Caribbean and Norwegian, and also I started.
There's a
looking
lot
at
of
Disney.
cruise lines out
There's a
there.
lot, yeah. But he started looking at different cruises and different dates and stuff like that. And then our calendar for the fall started filling up. And I said, well, if we want to do another cruise, we need to push it after the first of the year. And then looking at, because of the military rate and the Florida rate for Disney, one of the things we talk about is, yeah, you pay more for Disney, but you know what to expect. And I like the size of the ships. You look at some of the ones for like Royal Caribbean, they're 20 decks, know? And I mean, they're just huge. And I'd get lost. Sometimes we get lost on a Disney ship. So
yeah, that's true too.
but I think
really.
the next one we need to do, he would really like to do the Eastern Caribbean because we've done Western.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the Fantasy would make our fourth. We get the Grand Slam.
Bermuda's coming up in April. Lou Mangello's WDW.
Right, April is the Fantasy. That's the one ship we haven't done yet.
Yeah.
And, same here. Well, I haven't done I did the Dream. Yeah, the Fantasy I haven't done. Yeah, right.
So,
and now the Wish.
We haven't done the Fantasy and then the Wish, but
yeah, I'll have to wish for that for another
years ago. Years ago, we had talked about when we were looking at retiring at 65, we had said, well, we could retire at 65, then we could go to Italy in the fall and do the repositioning of the ship coming back to the U.S., the transatlantic one. But it actually, I think when it transitions back now, it doesn't come straight back to Florida. It actually goes to New York first, and then does stuff up on the northeastern seaboard before it moves down. So,
and who wants to go to New York?
But the
for pizza,
that's right?
The transatlantic.
New York is not a bad. I've left out of New York 2 or 3 times on cruises, and it's not a bad place to leave. I'd like New York.
Can I say something about that? I grew up in New York. Yeah. I'm so glad I do not live there anymore.
But the transatlantic.
It's a nice place to visit, though.
Transatlantic is.
And I live in the Northeast, so it's handier for me to get to New York to take a cruise than it is to go to Port Canaveral.
Yeah. Well, and the transatlantic is, I think you have like 7 straight days at sea or something like that.
Yeah.
Because you're
There's
just
a lot of
there's
blue.
a lot of ocean. Yeah. It was interesting when I started looking at the military, because Florida residents, of course, it's Port Canaveral or Miami. But with the military, it's any of the Disney cruises. So it's any of the ports, including Europe. So any of the ones that they do, the European ports, you could actually do.
I would highly recommend the Mediterranean cruise from Barcelona through Italy and then up to Monaco.
Greece.
Does it
do Greece?
The Greek Isles?
It does. Well, the one that I was on didn't do Greece. It was from Barcelona. It stopped in Rome. It stopped in Naples and Florence, as well as Monaco. So it was just that loop. It did the Western Mediterranean, not the Eastern.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I know that some people that had been on the Panama Canal group with us, I've seen them talking about the Greek Isles. So somebody's
That's the different itinerary.
I know they have one that does Norway and and
the British Isles,
and stuff.
And the one in the Mediterranean was a lot less expensive than I thought. A 7-day Mediterranean cruise, it was priced the same as a 5-day Western Caribbean cruise, depending on the time of the year. But
that's true.
It was much more reasonable than I expected.
The Panama Canal cruise for 14 days was only $500 more per person than the 7-day Alaska cruise was. to give
Well,
you
the 7-day Alaska cruise jumped 40% from when I went on it in 2015 until when was the
Yep.
when
We
was
went
the
on it.
last 2018, 19?
We
In
did the
19.
Lou one in 2018.
18.
The
Okay.
2015 one.
And so 3 years, in 3 years, it went up 40%.
I think that's where we first met. John was on Lou's.
Yeah, that's where I first met Stu.
2015, yeah.
I'm sorry, Stu. Stuart.
Yeah, we all call him Stu. That's
I hate
Stewie.
Stu.
Victory is mine.
You can call me Ray. No, you can call me. No.
Well, to give you a point of reference, my parents, and I'm trying to think, we were living in Ohio at the time, so it was 1997, 98 time frame.
Okay.
Because we were in,
It could have
The
been
one house.
It could have been 99.
Anyways,
Okay,
yeah.
so that okay.
because we moved to Korea in 99, so it was before. My parents did a 100-day around the world cruise, leaving from Dover, England, down to the Azores, across through the canal, all the way around up through the Suez Canal and everything. And it was $25,000 a person for them.
Ooh.
And that
I
was
wonder how much Disney would charge for that now.
20 years.
Consider it's over 100,000
years
for
ago.
21 days on EBD.
And it was technically it was 99 days, but you cross the international date line, so you lose a day.
Oh, that's how they cheat you out of a day.
Yeah.
But so that allowed Paul and I with doing the Panama Canal cruise. His brother has done the cruise. My parents have gone through the Panama Canal, and my nephew sailed his 40-foot sailboat through actually motored because you can't sail, but he motored through the Panama Canal, and he went through in 2014, I think. 2014. Yeah, it was before the new locks were built. He went through the old locks, and I was able to watch him. And he said he'd have to look, but he said he thought it cost him $600 to take a 40-foot sailboat through the locks.
Wow.
Because what they do is they take a whole bunch of little boats and
Yeah,
put them through
put
the,
a
at the
bunch in
same
there.
time.
Economy of scale, right?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
we joined a select group of folks.
There you go. I haven't done it.
Yeah, Nora.
Wow.
You've got me intrigued.
Yep, me too. Me too. All right. Anything else you want to add before we allow you to escape?
And go to bed.
Yeah.
I have water aerobics at 8 a.m.
I have pickleball at 8 a.m.
That'll be the middle of the night.
Oh, the life of living in Florida.
Yeah.
Water aerobics at 8.
Stuart will
yoga
not be
at 10.
awake at 8 a.m.
No. That's why I don't play pickleball. I can't get up that early.
Hey, they're starting to play at night.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That sounds good. Maybe I'll try it at night. All right, so we're gonna get out of here now. I'll be over at your house in 2 minutes, Paul. No. We're gonna get it. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with our viewers and listeners. I greatly appreciate it. So until next time, everybody, please be safe. Bye-bye.
Well, I was tempted to do a little bit of Van Halen Panama, but that's not quite Disney. But so we talked about Cars Land, and it seems that taking the Panama Canal cruise was living a dream. So I'm going to share a little bit from Cars Land and say, life would be a dream. Life would be a dream. Do 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 shaboo. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.